Imagine you're watching a movie, but unlike you, the director already knows every scene, every twist, and even the ending. He is not bound by time. He sees everything at once. Now, think about time. For us, it's linear. There is a past that has already happened, a present we are living, and a future we have yet to discover. But what about God? The Bible teaches us that God is not bound by time as we are. He sees the past, present, and future all at once. This means that before he even created the world, he already knew everything that would happen. And that leads us to a fascinating question. Did God already know that Eve would eat the forbidden fruit before he even created her? If he knew, why did he allow it? If he already foresaw the fall, why did he create the world anyway? These questions take us into one of the greatest mysteries of theology, and the answer might completely change the way you see God and life itself. But before we continue, leave a like and subscribe to the channel because this video will make you reflect deeply on God's purpose. In the beginning, God created a perfect world. Everything was good. The Garden of Eden was a paradise where there was no pain, suffering, or sin, and there lived Adam and Eve, the first human beings. They had the freedom to enjoy everything God had created. There were trees of all kinds, delicious fruits, crystal clear rivers, and the constant presence of God himself. Imagine the privilege they had. They didn't have to toil for food. They knew no disease or death. Everything was in perfect harmony. More than that, they had direct communion with God. But there was one restriction. In the middle of the garden, there was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God had given a clear command. Do not eat from the fruit of this tree, for on the day you eat from it, you will certainly die. This tree represented something much greater than just a test. It symbolized the choice between trusting God's wisdom or following their own desires. Now, here's an important question. Why did God place that tree there in the first place? If he already knew Eve would sin, why not simply prevent that situation? The answer lies in free will. God did not want programmed robots to obey him. He wanted children who would love him by choice. Then came the decisive moment. Eve stood before the forbidden tree. The serpent appeared and began to plant doubt. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Eve replied, we may eat the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God told us not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, nor touch it, or we will die. The serpent smiled and said, you will not certainly die. God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Eve hesitated. She looked at the fruit. It seemed so beautiful, so desirable. She thought, to be like God, to have the knowledge of good and evil, and then she made a choice. She took the fruit. She ate it, and she gave it to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. In that instant, everything changed. Sin entered the world. Innocence was lost. For the first time, Adam and Eve felt shame. They tried to hide from God, but he found them and asked, where are you? Now think, did God really not know where they were? Of course he did, but he wanted them to reflect on what they had done. Now comes the big question. If God already knew all of this would happen, why didn't he stop it? The answer to this question takes us to deep truths about God and his plan for humanity. 1. Free will. If God had prevented Eve from eating the fruit, he would have been denying the freedom he had given to humanity. Without choice, there is no true love, only forced obedience. Think of a father who forbids his child from everything. That child may obey, but not out of love, only out of fear. God doesn't want fearful servants. He wants loving children. 2. A greater purpose. Revelation 13:8 tells us that Jesus is the Lamb who was slain from the foundation of the world. This means that the cross was not a backup plan. From the very beginning, God already knew that sin would enter the world and had prepared a way for salvation. 3. Love and choice. God could have created a world where sin never existed, but that would be a world where true love didn't exist either. True love can only exist where there is freedom of choice. 4. Grace revealed. If Adam and Eve had never fallen, we would never know the depth of God's grace. Romans 5:20 says, "Where sin increased, grace increased all the more." Sin brought pain into the world, but it also opened the way for God to demonstrate His love and mercy through Jesus Christ. And here's an important detail. God Himself sacrificed an animal to cover Adam and Eve's nakedness. This was already a foreshadowing of the cross. From the very beginning, God was showing that only a sacrifice could cover the sin of humanity. Yes, God already knew that Eve would eat the fruit. He knew about sin, pain, and its consequences. But He also knew about the cross. He knew about redemption. He knew that His love would triumph in the end. Now think, if God already knew about the fall, doesn't He also already know about the challenges you are facing today? Hasn't He already prepared a way for you even before your problem appeared? The answer is yes. God has already seen your past. He knows your present, and He holds your future in His hands. Nothing catches God by surprise. So if you're facing a struggle, a fear, or a doubt today, remember, the same God who already knew about the fall also knew about the cross, and He already knows your tomorrow. Trust in Him. Now tell me, have you ever thought about this before? What do you think of this explanation? Leave a comment and let's discuss it. If this video made you reflect, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next videos.